Hello and welcome. My. It's been a while since Brewster's joined the show, hasn't
Hi, Brewster.
it? And he's gone, and now I'm covered in fur.
Yeah, perfect.
So it's Wednesday. Welcome, everybody. We've got Vincent and Peter and Tim here, and of course, I'm here, and as always, Mark is here as well.
Yeah, hello, everybody.
Yeah,
Oh,
hello.
oh, and the stream's working, so that's good.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for checking that.
No
And
problem.
I just had to shut myself off so I don't hear myself. Whew. All right, so yeah, he has grown. He's gotten quite big, and obviously he doesn't like sitting in my lap nearly as much as he used to anymore. Although it's funny because I'll be downstairs, and I know, hey Sandy, how's it going? I'll know
Hey,
when he
Sandy.
wants attention because he'll start like basically trying to kill me by walking all around and in between my feet. And that's when I know I need to come upstairs and sit down in this chair so he can jump in my lap and I can pet him for a while. Hello, Herman, and hello, K2. How's everybody doing? We're going to start the same way we always start. The week in photography, Classic Mama's here. Hey, IME. So, Mark, what have you been up to this week? And, of course, before Mark starts, everybody, we want to know what you guys have been up to, so let us know in the chat. What's happening in your world?
Yeah, we already got the lowdown on Peter.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So, what's up with you, Mark?
Last week in the group, I did a quick little. Well, it was actually about an hour stream, just going through and picking out some of the photos from the photo shoot that I did with Kim, and a couple people were on board and helped me out, helped me pick out some of the photos. So that was fun. And I also just this evening uploaded a new YouTube video as well too that I made on Saturday, and so that was.
I'll grab the link.
Okay, so that was the my projects for this week, and I've also started setting up for another video I want to make on sort of the bare basics of setting up your first light stand with an umbrella. Just like literally, it'll be just for beginners, like how to actually set your umbrella up, where to put it on the stand, and so on and so forth. So hopefully I'm going to work on that sometime this week or this coming weekend.
We've got Jim just joined us, and Jay for John is in the building. Hello. I had a busy week. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Watching from Clearwater, Florida. That's awesome. So tonight is just gear chat, all about the gear. Whatever you want to ask, whatever you want to chat about gear-wise, that's what we're doing tonight.
I even have my gear shirt on.
And Mark's even got his gear. Pentax, taking over the world. I had a big weekend photo-wise. So this weekend, I went to, it was Wadsworth, Illinois. I think it was Wadsworth, Illinois. And there's it's sort of a tourist attraction, but it's also somebody's house, and it's a pyramid. And so this whole thing is kind of like an Egyptian themed tourist attraction / actual house that a person lives in. And there was a great big group photo shoot there. I was shooting for 6 hours straight. It was crazy, crazy good, and so that was a pretty big project and a pretty big deal. I had a lot of fun with that, and I just decided recently to join another group shoot that's happening in October. I'm really excited about this one. It is at an abandoned circus down near Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I'm super excited about that because I've wanted to do like a freak show / creepy circus shoot for quite a long time, and this is going to be great. I can't wait for all the cool photos I'm going to get at that event. So that's going to be awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what's been happening with me this week. Those are the big things. I really tried to make a vlog / behind the scenes video of the group shoot. I couldn't do it. I took video, like I started taking video at the beginning of the day, and I got, like the travel part, and I got some of the early stuff, but once I got to shooting, recording just fell
Too much
apart.
going on.
Yeah, there's just too much going on because, like, here's what it's like at these group shoots. Okay, so you've got a schedule of models that you're working with, and you've got 1 hour slots, and you've got a model in each hour, and you're in this location, and basically what you're doing is you're setting up and then tearing down over and over again for every new model, and that's how I do it, at least, and that's how most people do it, because uh, they if you just shoot in one location, like if you just shot every model in a single location, that would get pretty boring. You know what I mean? So I like to move around and scout and find different spots and check it out, and that's and it's hard work. Like, at the end of the day, I was sunburnt, and exhausted. I would need somebody to come with to record the video during the shooting portion, because I just can't focus on taking good video and giving the model my full attention so that we can get good photos during the shoot. So that's why I didn't get video for it, even though I tried to. And I might try again in October, but I'm guessing I won't get any good video there either.
Oh, it's an E for effort no matter what, right?
Right, yeah, we'll take that. E for effort for me. A for effort. EA, whatever.
Yeah.
So, John says, like an abandoned tent. I mean, I think it's like a whole sort of carnival, fairground sort of place, rather than, like, just, like an abandoned tent. So I'm excited for that shoot. I think it's going to be really fun. I want to say hey to Scott. Scott just joined us. And if you're interested, this is where we were shooting. Gold Pyramid House, where the group shoot was. What's the chat delay on this? Okay. So anyway, that's what we've been up to. Now, I just wanted to do gear chat. So what I'd like to know is, if you guys have any kind of questions about gear, go ahead and throw them into the chat. If you just want to chat about your gear, some of your favorite gear, I have a couple questions to kind of prime the conversation, but I also had a couple things that I wanted to talk about that I've been mulling over with my gear. And unless you want to start with something, Mark, I'll go ahead. Do you have anything you want to start with?
You go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. So, I'm just closing this tab here. Oh, hello, Helen. And Alex says, your live show is perfect for me because I'm always sitting at my computer editing. This love-hate relationship with my wedding shoots is ruining my life but enlarging my pockets. I get that. I couldn't.
Weddings is a lot of work.
I couldn't be a wedding photographer. I would hate it. I would hate it. It would totally. It's very profitable if you do it right, and I'm glad that it's profitable for you, Alex. But I totally understand your pain. Hello to Avalon 649 as well. So here's what I'm mulling over. Okay, I'm mulling over. Opa, my flash situation, my lighting situation. I'm totally happy with my camera and my lenses, my EM5 Mark II and my 12-40 and 40-150. Those are awesome. But my lighting it's not that it doesn't work, because it works great. But it's also, and hey, IME just asked a question, what speedlight brands do you shoot with? This is part of the, it's not a problem, but it is part of the problem. So here's basically the thing that I'm running into. If you are, I shoot with a mixed bag of flashes. So I have flashes by Yongnuo, I have flashes by Godox, I have a Nuir, I have
Canon, don't you, too?
I don't use those anymore, but I still do have a couple of Canon speedlights. I've got a Lumo Pro, I've got an Aper light, I've got all these different flashes, and they all work fine, right? And I trigger everything with Pocket Wizard radio triggers, and that's why I can use a whole bunch of different brands and it doesn't matter. But I'm somewhat regularly running into two problems. One is just the efficiency of having like 6 different flashes, basically. because every flash operates slightly differently. So when I walk up to the flash, I have to look at it to figure out which flash it is so that I know how to change whatever it is that I want to change. And I know how to change everything on all my flashes. Like, that's not the problem. But there's always a beat where I got to look at it and figure out which flash so that I can recall how that specific flash works, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that. There's also the issue of all of these are individual flash units with separate trigger units, which when I started shooting flash, that was the norm, right? Unless you shot wireless TTL using like the Nikon, they call it their creative lighting system, or Canon's wireless TTL system. Your only option for triggering your flashes was using some sort of external trigger. But now we have a plethora of options where your flashes have the trigger built right into them. And that's going to do two things. Number one, that's going to reduce setup time, because every flash I set up, I've got to set up the flash, I've got to set up the trigger, I've got to make sure everything's plugged in, and make sure both units are on. And with a contained unit, all I got to do is turn it on.
Yeah, one less thing to remember to bring with you.
Exactly. It's going to reduce the amount of stuff that I have to pack if I have triggers that are built into the flash. And it's also going to reduce the number of batteries that I use, because I got 2 batteries per trigger, 4 batteries per flash. And you can go through batteries pretty quick if you're not... if you're shooting a lot. So
yeah, if your batteries die in your triggers, then it's like, oh shit, is it my triggers or is it the flash?
Right.
Or the transmitter?
Exactly. And then you got to go over and you got to figure out. So like, that's one problem, which is just the efficiency of that system. It all works, but all of that together makes things not as efficient as they could be, right? Every flash I pull out has a slightly different sync port position, and I got it, all of that kind of stuff. And then the secondary thing that I'm running into is when you're shooting with any flash, this is a possibility, but it can happen with speed lights more often, because speed lights in general are less powerful. That's one of the sacrifices you give in getting a smaller, more portable flash. And when you're using something that's less powerful, you more often have to use it at higher powers, especially if you're shooting at somewhat smaller apertures, which I tend to do because I generally want greater depth of field in my portraits that I'm taking. And what that means is when I'm working with a model and we're on a clip and I'm shooting fairly rapidly, the flashes can get to the point where they're overheating fairly quickly, and that means that they shut down and they stop firing, which brings the shoot to a halt, because then I got to go troubleshoot and figure out, did my flash overheat, did my flash batteries die, did my trigger batteries die, or is there a third problem that I'm not even aware of? So like, this is all of the stuff that I'm thinking about. Now I want to come back to it because we've got some questions, so I want to get to your guys' questions rather than just talking about me this whole time. And I answered Hey IME's question. He said he's got to head out, so sorry you got to go, but thank you for joining us. And John says, I only have one comment about getting new gear, which is ARG. And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Hello.
Between trying to figure out which one you need, how much it's going to cost.
Green RC24, hello and welcome. And Sanjay with you has a question. Says, please suggest me a good economy wireless microphone for the Canon 80D. That, honestly, Sanjay, that's really tough, because wireless microphones, the microphone itself, it's fairly easy to get a good microphone, but to get a good wireless set that transmits your voice data from your microphone unit attached to your person to your camera, to get a good one is going to be expensive. There's almost no way around it. There are some cheap options out there. In fact, I'm going to do a little switcheroo here over to Amazon and bring up wireless lav mic, and we can show a couple of these wireless options that exist. Let me get this switched over so that you guys can see everything. Here we go. So like
Hi,
this
Gary.
this right here, there's this Movo 2.4 gigahertz wireless lavalier microphone for $107. Don't buy that. I bought I bought that some time ago, and it is a piece of shit. Pardon my language. It's garbage. It barely functions. Is really what it boils down to. You know, so to get something good, you're going to need to get up into the multiple hundreds of dollars. Like here's this Saramonic. Now I'm not vouching for this because I've never used this Saramonic, but you know that's $234. That's going to be like low end. I use this right here, the Sennheiser EW G3 wireless system, and it's rock solid, but it's also $554. And if you need to be able to record without having a mic, I'm going to switch us back here. Without having a mic tethered to the person, from your camera to the person, I would say your better option is going to be to record your audio separately from the camera. So you'll take audio with the camera because you'll need that audio reference to synchronize the audio that you've recorded on the person. And then you would get something like a, do I have it up here? No, it's out in my studio. It's the Zoom H1 recorder, which is $100. In fact, I'll bring this back up. I should have stayed over at Amazon so I can show these products, but let me bring it back up. Right, so instead of using a wireless, you would get this Zoom H1 right here. It's a portable digital recorder. I use it, does a great job. And then you would want to get a lavalier mic to go with it. So if you get this right here, the Zoom One handy portable digital recorder, you can mic your person up and have that slipped into their pocket or something like that. And then if you just get a lavalier mic,
Yeah, the one I'm using seems to work pretty good. The Boya,
yeah.
BOYA.
And I've used Boya mics. They do a nice job. Here's, you know, I'm just pointing out general prices. Here's one for $35. You know, you can spend a little or a lot, but I say, you know, if you spend between 30, you know, if you spend here, in fact, this is a mic that I've used quite often. This $28 Pro condenser lavalier microphone. I use it because it's for the Sennheiser wireless transmitter, but it'll work with any system. They say it's for the Sennheiser because it has this little screw lock on it, but I actually also use it with that Zoom H1. So for $128, you can record good quality audio on your person or the person who needs to be mic'd, and then also record audio on the camera and then synchronize that in your edit. That's going to be the most cost-effective way to get good audio wirelessly.
Yeah, myself, when I'm doing it, I record either just on my the computer with Audacity, or I just use my cell phone and record it with an app in there, and then I just sync it afterwards in editing.
Yep, and that's another thing you could do. You could actually, you know, and a lot of people do record that audio to their smartphones, using it like a Zoom H1 or like a portable recorder, and you can buy lavalier mics for your smartphones. Now, this is starting to change. I mean, you can still buy lav mics for your smartphones. That hasn't changed, but the trend now is that phones are dropping the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack that used to be on every smartphone you ever bought, which means now you need adapters and other BS to make those work. And that's fine. You can still use those, but I have found, at least with my iPhone, that the connection reliability is not as good as the sturdy and reliable 3.5 millimeter jack where you plug it in and you know it's plugged in and it's going to work. So, you know, that's a choice you could do if you wanted to. But that's what I'd recommend. So Helen also had a question. She said the Sigma Art 35mm lens seems all the rave, and she's wondering if it's worth it and if we have any comments on it. So I'll let you start on that, Mark, and share your thoughts on that lens.
Yeah, 2 years ago when I was down in New York for the big photo show, I actually mounted one on my camera and just took a few shots down there,
Mm-hmm.
and was actually quite surprised at how sharp it was wide open. But it is a pretty hefty lens. Um, is it worth the money? It's probably a lot more noticeable, or it's probably a lot more reasonably priced lenses that are probably just as good, but it, it's tough to say. Like, I think it's a case of if you got the money, then why not? But there's probably definitely cheaper alternatives. Like I know like Pentax, they have a 30 mil or 35 millimeter. It's not like a 1.8. I think it's a
I, I,
2.8,
I,
but it's only like 135 or dollars or something like that, and it works quite well. So
yeah.
it's a tough call. It's a tough call when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I don't know what the price is on that lens. I'd actually have to look. So let me just take a quick look. 35 millimeter art, just to get an idea. Um,
I think it's like $600 or $700 or something like that.
which for a lens of that quality,
Yeah,
it's
that's probably reasonable.
yeah. So it's $900. It's an f1.4, um, and here's what I would say. I've never used it. I've used Sigma lenses, and they're great, but I've never used that specific lens. Um, and what I would say is, I would say it's worth the money if it's a lens that you know you're going to use, and you know you want like a really good quality 35 millimeter. Yes, I would say it's worth the money. But also, like Mark said, you can get really good 35 millimeter wide, wider aperture lenses. Not 1.4. It might be f2, might
Right,
be
right.
f1.8, might even be f2.8, right? For significantly cheaper. So if you have the money and you want to be able to shoot at f1.4 to get that super dreamy bokeh, and you want something that's going to be sharp at f1.4, I'd say go ahead and go for it. But if it's just like everybody's talking about this lens, so I feel like maybe I should get this lens, don't buy it, because that's just all the rage, right? Which is no good if it's not a lens that you're going to use that's going to actually benefit your photography.
Yeah, and that's what keeps the prices up because it's the rage. So everyone
Right.
wants it, so the price stays up there.
Yeah. So Vincent had a comment. He said, "But the wireless signal is different in all the different flash brands," and this is very true. So to get back to mine, and we'll wrap back around this before we wrap up, and I'll share like what I've been thinking about doing, or what I've been thinking about wishing I could do, basically. Um, the wireless signal is different in all the different flash brands, right? So if as an example, my Yongnuo, I have two Yongnuo flashes. Both of them have wireless receivers built into them, but I don't use those receivers because I don't use Yongnuo transmitters, and I don't have all Yongnuo flashes. But if I decide to go with a system like that, then I would go with all of those flashes, whether it's all Yongnuo flashes or all Godox flashes or all some other brand that has them built in, Flashpoint, whatever it might be. But that's the benefit of using something like Pocket Wizards, because as long as the flash has a sync port, and it doesn't even need to have a sync port, honestly, because you can get a shoe that will take the cord. But so basically, with a Pocket Wizard, you can trigger any flash you want, and that is a benefit sometimes, but it's also a drawback for the reasons that I described earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Peter had a question. He says, "I'll need a flash for my K3. General usage, no studio work. I want something I can use off center." So, Peter, when you say that, do you want to be able to actually trigger it off camera? Is that what you mean? Or do you want to be able to put it on camera and just shoot on camera?
He doesn't care about TTL. I asked that.
Okay, so manual flash, but let us know if you want to be able to trigger it on or off camera, because that'll vary slightly the recommendation options.
Yeah, like for on camera, if you would like to have a TTL option, Metz is a cheaper alternative than the Pentax cameras, or sorry, than the Pentax flashes. They're still a little bit pricier than like the Young Nuos and what have you, but the TTL option is there if you 100% don't care about TTL, then Young Neo is probably a reasonable option. That's primarily what I use, but I do have a METS as well too for anytime I'm running and gunning.
Mm-hmm. And if you're looking to shoot off camera, I would say go with the Nuo as well. I think it's going to be the most cost effective way to get a trigger and a flash that's going to shoot off camera. You can grab yourself the
the 560 TX, I think, is a transmitter.
yeah, the
If I
five.
remember right.
Yeah, I mean, if you want like the commander thing, that's $40, and you might as well get that because it's not that much more than just buying like one of their sort of dumb triggers, which is to say it's just a trigger. Whereas with that commander unit, you can actually change the power and stuff remotely. And it'll cost you about $100, maybe $110 US to get the flash, which you could get the 600, the 660, YN 660 or 600, whichever one that is. That's about a $60 flash, and then the trigger, and boom, you're all set to work on camera and off camera.
Yeah, the trigger I'm just looking at here is about $36 on Amazon.
Uh-huh.
And the 560 Mark III is $60.
Okay, so yeah, if you wanted to keep it a little more economical, you could get that the 563, and you'd be good to go there.
Actually, the 560 Mark IV is also $60 as well too. I'm just looking at it here.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Either way, you could get into it for about $100.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it doesn't have to cost you a lot. Hello to DK Pro Gaming.
Yeah.
Also got to say hello to Mike and Carrie, who hopped in and have joined us. And Mike says Nikon rules again. As always, right? Oh, and hello, Mark. Mark joined us too.
I thought I was already here.
Yeah, Mark MC and Tim, Hapless Guitar Photography, is here too. That's awesome. Oh, and Matt's here too. Awesome. And the Worker. Hello, everybody. This is awesome.
Sandy commented that she thought all flashes were TTL, but no, that's not the case.
Definitely not the case. Definitely not the case.
Yeah, definitely not the case.
Yeah. So if you want TTL, make sure it's TTL. Make sure it's TTL that's compatible with your camera system, because Nikon TTL does not work with Canon TTL. Although this is one of the other cool things that's happening in flash photography now, which is, and in fact, I think it was Godox that just released this. They've basically now got.
A universal?
Yeah, it's like a universal TTL.
I think Cactus does as well.
That's right. I think you're right.
B6, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. So these third-party companies are bridging these gaps in between the proprietary systems, which is nice if you want to use TTL, with your flash.
Yeah, I think they all have the same pins, more or less. It's more I think the programming and how they communicate with each other.
Right.
Because I think the Cactus system, if I remember right, I think it's the only one that you can use off-camera TTL with Pentax.
Which one was that again?
The Cactus B6 triggers. I think they're the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head that'll do wireless TTL with the Pentax. Okay,
I'm not sure about that because I haven't really looked into that. So you're definitely the one to answer that rather than me. Scott had a question too. He said, looking to upgrade strobes to something like an Explorer 600, and he wanted to know our thoughts. And it's funny because that kind of leads back into what I've been thinking. And so just first of all, like, I'm looking at that Flashpoint Explorer 600, and I'm familiar with those in general. And at 600 watt seconds with high speed sync and TTL with a battery powered as a battery powered monolight, that's $749. And that's a pretty good deal. But one of the things I would say that's worth checking out first, though, let's do a quick comparison here. I'm going to do another switcheroo here so that we can take a look at. I got to find the website.
There's another system, I can't think of the name of it, that what's his name?
Paul C. Buff.
Gavin Hoey uses
regularly.
It's like it's a little bigger and a little bit more powerful than like a regular speed light, but it's not quite the flash point level. I think it's something in between, but I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. So that's a 320 watt second. Now let's compare that to that flash point real quick here. I want to make sure. Okay, so that's a 600 watt second, right? So let's get something that's comparable here. That would be probably 1600. Here we go. So this here is a 640 watt second. So here's what I wanted to show you. We're looking at the Palsy Buff Alien B B1600, which is a 640 watt second monolight, and it is $359. That is less than half the cost of that Flashpoint. Now, what you don't get here is you don't get the HSS, you don't get the high-speed sync, and you don't get the TTL, right? So if those are things that are important to you for your monolight, then I would say go ahead and get that Flashpoint, because that has those things. And Flashpoint's good, right? Like, I know Adorama, I know they make good stuff with their Flashpoint. And first of all, too, like, Flashpoint is rebadged stuff, and I think most of the rebadged Flashpoint stuff is actually Godox, if I remember correctly. But regardless, like, Adorama is going to back that up. So, like, if that's what you're after, I would say go ahead and get that. But if you want to get more bang for your buck, then these Alien Bees are going to be troopers for you. You can get two of these monolights, which are actually slightly more powerful, for the cost of one of those Flashpoints. And if I were buying monolights like this, I would get the Alien Bees. But I also don't really need TTL. I've been considering high-speed sync. I don't shoot outdoors a lot, and when I do, I try to do it at night so that I don't have to worry about the sun. But an example is when I was at the Pyramid, there was a lot. There were not as many. Okay, how do I say this? When you're shooting a whole bunch of models, like I said earlier, you want to try to find different locations so you can vary your shots and you can get good, varied work. And the number of indoor locations was a bit limited. And I did shoot a little bit outside, but it was a struggle because it was bloody bright out. I mean, it was awful bright out. And there was no way for me to black out the sun, obviously, because, I was shooting with speed lights. So all I was able to do was balance the sun and augment it with my flashes, which I did, and it was fine, but I would have preferred in that situation to have high-speed sync ability. So that's what I would say. If you want the high-speed sync in TTL, go ahead for the Flashpoint. Otherwise, these Alien Bees, I'd recommend these because I know a lot of people use them. I've considered buying them in the past myself, and they're rock solid. And Palsy Buff, they're a good company. They stand by their product. You can trust them.
Well, Kim has a good gear question.
What's that?
Hello, did you get the sync?
No, I did not. I figured we'd go after I pick you up and pick up the sync, since I hadn't heard back. So yeah, I didn't get the sync just yet. All right. So Carrie says, I hate wireless everything. I can understand that. I love wireless flash, but when it comes to like other wireless stuff, I actually agree. There's a lot of times where I actually hate wireless because it can be very problematic at times.
I hate Bluetooth.
I kind of love Bluetooth, but when it works.
Yeah, I find Bluetooth is very finicky to get it to work properly. Once it's working, it works fine, but sometimes you gotta stick around a lot to get it to actually connect, I find.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what you're using, I've had really good luck with Bluetooth. Now, I use Bluetooth principally with my phone, and the things that I use Bluetooth with are I have Apple AirPod headphones, and those are designed to connect to this like in a cinch, so they work great. And then I've got a couple of Anker, Anker, Bluetooth speakers, and they work great. And I have my Apple Watch, which again is designed to connect to this. So the things that I use Bluetooth for work really well. But I have experienced really bad Bluetooth with some off-brand wireless headphones that I used to use before I got the AirPods, and that was really frustrating. So I understand that. I really do understand that.
I think with me, my biggest issue is using the phone in the car. It says you're connected, but then sometimes it doesn't go through the Bluetooth system properly, even though it says you're connected and you're trying to talk, but then you have to pick up the phone to actually talk on it. It's like,
yeah,
miss if it works.
Yeah. So Alex said with the Alien B you don't have portability, and I understand that, but you don't really have portability with that Flashpoint either. So if you're comparing those two, then you're not really losing anything. I mean, you can take Alien Bs out. I've seen people take Alien Bs on location all the time. When I go to these group shoots, I often see people shooting with those Alien Bs.
Yeah,
but
typically,
like,
if you want something that's more powerful,
it's going to be bigger. Yeah. But if if you're talking about like Alien Bs versus Speedlights, then yeah, 100% the Speedlights are, way, way, way more portable versus shooting with something like Alien Bs.
Yeah, and it's something that some people don't realize. Like if you have a Speedlight, you have it at full power and it's not enough to do it. Some people think, well, I can just add another Speedlight and it'll double my power, but it doesn't actually work that way. I remember, I think if you using a flash at full power, and you add another flash beside it to try and get double the power, I think it only adds one stop or something like that.
Well, you're right. But so one flash, when you add a second flash, that does double the power, right? But that from there, it quickly spirals out of control, because if you want to double that, then you got to add 2 more flashes for 4.
Right.
And then if you want to double that, you need 4 more flashes to 8, right? Yeah. So that would mean you need to be carrying around a trunk full of Speedlights, which is going to be easier then to bring out the Alien B and just work with that instead.
Yeah.
So Glenna had a question. Glenna's question was, might have answered earlier. We haven't, so this is actually, we're happy to answer. But what tripod would you recommend for travel purposes? Not studio, but travel. And that's... I got to be honest with you, I'm not like super deep into tripods, so I can point you in a direction. And Mark, I want you to weigh in on this too. But I can't say with 100% certainty like this is a particular tripod you should get. But there's 2 things that I would recommend looking for. The first is, depending upon how much you want to spend, look for carbon fiber, because carbon fiber is going to be lighter. And if you want to reduce the amount of weight, that will help you reduce the amount of weight while still having a strong, stable tripod.
I think there's sort of 2 factors. It depends if you're just traveling because you're just walking around, then something light that's made out of carbon fiber is probably good. But if you're actually traveling back in the suitcase, then you might want the light, plus also how much it compacts into a small space.
Right. And that was the other thing I was going to point out. And here's an example. Now, this is just a tripod I grabbed on Amazon, so I'm not necessarily saying that this is a good tripod for travel, although it's got decent reviews. But just as an example, this is a tripod where you can see how those legs fold up to make this a fairly compact tripod unit. And that's the other thing you're going to want to look for, because that's going to make it smaller and easier to either A, pack in your bag or wherever, or B, strap to your camera bag or carry with you as you're doing your walk around and shooting and whatnot.
Yeah.
Again, to a specific brand, like I can't really... I would look at Manfrotto, Slik, S-L-I-K. They make great, tripods as well. Gitzo, like those are all good tripod brands. But
there's lots of brands out there. It's just, like myself, I'm not a big tripod shooter. I use it if I'm doing macros. I only have one tripod. Admittedly, it's a big, heavy brute. I wouldn't want to travel with it. But that being said, it gets nice and low to the ground, so it works for me. But if I was actually doing a lot of traveling where I want a light tripod, I would definitely consider investing in something that's smaller and lighter.
Yeah.
But for the amount of use that I use a tripod, what I have right now works well.
Mm-hmm. And Peter recommended the Manfrotto Compact. And Avalon 649 recommended the Manfrotto Be Free as another good option. So those are a couple recommendations I'd definitely check out. Alrighty. So let's see what else we got for questions. Let's see. Hapless Guitar Photography said, I'm considering switching to the A6300 or A6500. I'll use my Nikon lenses, but what about the Yongnuo flashes? And he said, I think later on, that he's currently shooting the D7100. Yeah, there it is right there. So, Mark, you got any thoughts on that before I jump in on it?
I don't really know the Sonys, but I believe now their current lines use standard shoes. So I would, again, if you're not concerned about TTL, then Yongnuo is probably a viable option. If you are concerned about TTL, and to be honest, you'd have to see what works with Sony, and I honestly don't know what flashes.
There's not a lot.
Have TTL support, so.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is, like, both the 6300 and the 6500 are great cameras. You're going to lose some autofocus speed if you're going to adapt your Nikon lenses over to that. That's been something that's been well documented and well talked about with all of the Sony mirrorless cameras. When people are using Canon, Nikon, or other manufacturer lenses that are adapted, they just do not focus as quickly. I don't know about the accuracy, but they're definitely slower to focus. And if you're okay with that, then I'd say go for it, because
I think the accuracy is there. I think it's just, like you said, the speed.
The speed, right. Now, the thing I would say is, and you can answer this if you want it, we can discuss it more, but I would ask why you're considering the switch, because the D7100 is a great camera. And,
Yeah, because the 63, isn't that sort of Sony's entry line?
They've had others. I don't know if that's the entry point anymore, because they've got like the 5000 series, and I'm not sure if they're still making those.
Right,
so that was more of the entry line, where the 63 has been more of the, the APS-C pro level camera, for lack of a better designation. Right. They've got really great features all around, and like Jason Lanier loves the 6000 series. I remember seeing a couple videos he did. Of course, people accuse him of being a Sony fanboy, which is fine, but regardless, they're regarded as very good cameras, is what I'm saying. But I would, on the flip side to that, I always question when somebody wants to buy a new camera or upgrade a camera or switch systems, because if your current system is not failing you, then I would ask why you want to spend that money and make that switch.
Yeah, and which Nikon what's the use?
He's using the D7100.
Oh, 70.
Yeah.
So that's the
it's a bit older, but it's
sensors other than the D500 now.
Right. And if you are having problems with that body, then that's one thing, and I'd say go for it. But if, like, the D7100 works fine, I would just question why you want to do it. And that's not to say that you can't, because of course you can do whatever the heck you want. But I'm always hesitant to say you should go ahead and switch this camera when you're already using a perfectly good camera. If you feel there's some sort of limitation, look at yourself and look at your photography and determine if you're looking to switch camera because you feel like you need something different, or if your camera can actually give you what you're looking for and you just need to work with it more, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Sanjay had a question. How do you remove the wrinkles from my new backdrops? I tried it with an iron, but it burned. Ooh, that sucks.
Oh.
That's not good. I use the Downy Wrinkle Releaser Spray. That stuff works magic. So what you want to do is actually hang the backdrop on the stand and clamp it so that it's pulled tight, and then spray it with the wrinkle releaser. And do this a good hour before your shoot with it. And then by the time you get to the shoot, the wrinkles won't be like 100% gone, but they'll be like 90 to 95% gone. And then you'll be fine. And you can shoot, and it'll be easy enough to clean up that in post.
And if you can figure out a way just to keep it pulled tight, then most of the wrinkles should be gone just by doing that.
Yep, that's 100%. You got to pull that backdrop tight. If you just leave it hang there, it's gonna be wrinkly no matter what. So
Yeah.
pull that thing tight. That makes so much of a difference in getting a nice clean look in your backdrop.
Yeah. Or alternatively, if you're in a rush, you can Photoshop the wrinkles out. It's actually
Right.
pretty quick to do. Actually,
Yeah.
Of course, it depends on the background, but if it's just one of those sort of generic, messy-looking backgrounds, anyways, and you could probably take you 5 minutes, if that, to quickly fix that in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Granted, if you can do it without having to do any Photoshop work, it's 5 minutes saved. But
John says, I have a steamer for traveling so you can unwrinkle your clothes. And that's another option, too. That would work as well. I've never used a steamer myself, but that would do the trick, and it won't burn your backdrop. So that's definitely something worth looking into. And Sandy and Tim was being sassy, too. This is funny. So if your flash doesn't have TTL, Sandy says, what is it called? And it's typically just called a manual-only flash or non-TTL flash.
yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Flashpoint 360 is what Mark was saying Honey uses. I haven't used... Alex says, I haven't used the 600 watt unit, and it's fantastic, about the same cost as the AD600. Okay. Oh, hey, TC, and hello to Nazar. Carrie, I agree, and this is why I don't use the 580 EX2s anymore. They're terrible off camera. Terrible off camera. I had a hard time with them. All right, I'm trying to just get caught up on everything. But Mark, have you been thinking about any gear changes or gear updates or whatnot with your own stuff?
No, I can't afford it. Actually, I get the one thing I keep thinking about. It's not high on my list or anything, but if I happen to come across a good deal, is I would like a nice wide full frame lens, because I currently don't have one. So typically I'm shooting a crop lens in full frame, and then just bringing it down a little bit to get rid of the dark corners and that. But that's sort of the only thing that I'm pondering at this point in time. Like, also, like a 24-70 full frame would be nice, but at this stage of the game, I've gotten away without it so far. So
right.
But a wide I would like, just for doing some landscape stuff.
Yeah, for lenses, I would someday. This is not like a burning desire, but someday I'd like to get the 7 to 14 millimeter f2.8 Olympus Pro lens, and that would essentially give me the what's called, quote unquote, the trinity of lenses that go with any system: your wide angle zoom, your mid range zoom, and then your telephoto zoom, all at f2.8s. And I've got the mid range and the telephoto, and I love those lenses. And the 7 to 14 would round out my system very nicely. Alex has got a good point on the Alien Bees. He said you lose your advanced price point there. The manual version of the Godox and the Jinbai is about $500 a piece. And then he says also the modifiers are an issue because you can only use the Paul C. Buff modifiers with the Alien Bees. And that is a good point. To be fair, the Paul C. Buff modifiers are pretty reasonably priced. But that is a good point, because it's a proprietary mount for those modifiers.
Well, I think a lot of the bigger flashes do that, like what the hell brand is it I'm thinking of? I don't remember, but I do know that some of the larger flashes they do have a amount that's you know what I mean. It's an amount that's specific to them.
But as a follow-up, Scott said he likes the high-speed sync and the battery power, and he already has Bowens mount soft boxes. And
Bowens, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Bowens, that was it.
and that Flashpoint uses the Bowens mount. So then it makes sense to me that you go with that light that we were talking about, the Explorer 600. It's more expensive, but it works with your system, and it has the features you want. So yeah. And if I was looking for that as well, I might consider that as part of my system. All right, so let's see what else we got going on here. I like to use my modifiers with my S brackets on my speedlights, Alex says. I love Bluetooth for my stereo. Yep. In fact, okay, this is going to be kind of funny. Don't laugh at me, guys. But when I was at the store today at Home Depot buying the stuff for the bathroom renovation in the new house, one of the things I needed to get was a fan, an exhaust fan light for above the shower. And I was
bought a wireless one. Am I right?
I bought one that's got a Bluetooth speaker built into it.
Oh, okay, that's close.
Now, I didn't buy it because it has the Bluetooth speaker built into it. I bought it because it was the best looking one of the lot that they had at Home Depot. But the fact that it has a Bluetooth speaker in it is awesome because
it didn't hurt any, right?
Yeah, because then I can listen to my podcasts and audiobooks when I take a shower. which why not, right?
Sure, why not?
So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh, and Peter said he wanted to chime in that a hybrid tripod / monopod might weigh a little bit more, but it can be absolutely worth it. I hate it when the chat
I know I've
jumps
seen
at me.
some of those monopods with the little feet on them,
Mhm.
which is probably good for indoor use, but definitely if you're doing like landscape stuff, you definitely wouldn't want to use that for that.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if that's what he's referring to, or if he means the one that has 3 legs and the one leg comes off to use as a monopod, which is probably what he's talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 6:51. I want to try to get through the questions that we're getting here from folks. Thomas said, and this I can't answer because I actually don't use these, but he says, I want foldable soft boxes / strip boxes. So does anyone in the chat or anybody watching, or you, Mark, know of any foldable strip boxes and soft boxes that you can get for a pretty good price? So if you do, let Thomas know in the chat, please, and share the information, because I don't have a good answer for that. Do you know of any, Mark?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I don't. With my speed lights, I really don't use soft boxes. Also, because of the style I shoot, I tend not to often use bigger diffused light sources in my lighting, and that's more of my style. So I have a couple of umbrella soft boxes that I do use on occasion, but those are umbrella soft boxes that collapse. And if you want, Thomas, let me know, and I can pop the link into the chat for those, because those are really nice and portable. But they're not strip boxes; they're technically octaboxes.
Yeah, Peter says he saw something the other day, so he's gonna find it and see if he can probably just PM me the link, and then I'll pop it into the chat.
Yeah. Mike says, any tips for landscapes with the 50mm f1.8 lens?
Shoot at f11, f16.
Yeah. I mean, if you want that greater depth of field, you're gonna want to shoot at a closer, a smaller aperture, like Mark said. Outside of that, really, it's just a matter of framing your shot. 50mm or mid-range focal length. It's not a wide, but that's fine, because you can obviously shoot landscape with any length at all. I know there are a lot of landscape photographers that use 70 to 200mm lenses.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Right.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. But the other thing too is if you are just using the 50mm, you can't capture the whole scene. You could always flip your camera from landscape mode to portrait mode, so you're getting more height, and then do a panorama and stitch like 2, 3, 4, 5 images together.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Really good idea. Gotta say hello to Lion King and Judy and Bill, who've also joined us, and the Valkyrie is here, and hello to anybody else who might have joined us that I missed. Let's see. Robert says, I switched from the 5D Mark II to Sony a6000 and I couldn't be happier and safer on dangerous locations. Okay. And
Peter sent me something, but I don't think that's actually what that he was looking for. But basically what he sent me the link for is one of those portable studios that you put your objects in to shoot. But I think he was actually looking for
like an actual diffuser. Right.
Yeah, an actual soft box or a strip box that will fold down.
Right.
So I don't think that's quite it, Peter.
Okay. So Tim clarified that A6000 is the entry. The 6500 has 5-axis sensor stabilization, and I like the smaller size. Or I may go to D750. Okay, so that good. That really helps clarify, because the 5-axis in-body image stabilization, like, I love that. I've got that in my Olympus, and it's a dream. Like, it's really fantastic. And if you're looking for that, I would say, the 6500 is a great change then from the D7100, and the smaller size. Now, if you're thinking of going to the D750, that's obviously not going to give you a smaller size, but then you're moving up into a full frame, which is going to give you different benefits. So based on what you're saying, I would seriously consider the 6500 as well. Now, that's because you're already looking. Like, I personally probably wouldn't consider the A6500, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. And I should also clarify this. I personally have not shot with a Sony camera in quite a long while. The last time I did not care for the ergonomics and operation and menu system and so on and so forth. And to me, the camera got in the way of just letting me do what I wanted to do. Now, that might be better, and if you don't have a problem with that, then from the 7100 to 6500 would give you some significant advantages. One of the biggest being that 5-point sensor stabilization. It's also going to be a better camera for video than the 7100 is.
Yeah. The in sensor or the in body stabilization is always nice, because then you can basically use any lens and you still have the stabilization.
Right. Just be aware again that with those adapted Nikon lenses, you'll probably see a drop in your focus speed as compared to using it on the 7100. So the Valkyrie has a question, and what is the best flash trigger for your buck out there? I don't have a lot to spend, but the ones that I have are useless. I'd probably go back, and I think you'd probably agree, Mark, that we'd go back to the Yongnuo.
It might also depend on, is she just looking for triggers, or is she looking for flashes as well? She already has flashes.
Yeah.
And just looking for triggers, then probably...
You know what? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, probably then, if the cheap Chinese ones have been giving her a lot of issues, then you might have to step up and go with the Pocket Wizards. But you can get the basic Pocket Wizards pretty cheap, though, can't you?
The basic are they're about $80 per. Let me double check that price. But I think they are. Let's see, Pocket Wizard plus X is the ones that are the basic. But I'm looking for, they're $90 per, so that's $180 because you need one for the camera. So that would be actually, that would be cost prohibitive because there's 2 flashes there. So here's
she has one young Yongnuo and one Canon, so it's a mixed bag.
Okay. I'm trying to find something that I just saw today. Where the heck is Moodlight? I don't want that. Here we go. Let me find something here because I just saw David Hobby. He's sort of like the strobist. He's the kind of one of the lighting gurus out there. Here we go, and he just updated his recommendations for like triggers and all of these other things.
Right.
And here's what he recommends, and I would not hesitate to follow that recommendation. He recommends,
he's a guru.
Yeah, best bang for your buck triggers in terms of like reliability and cost are the Photix Aries triggers. That's I'm just going to put it into the chats. Photix Aries, and they are $55 for a set of 2. And you would need a set that's going to give you the trigger, plus you're going to get the receivers or receiver, and then you need one more receiver. And I'm not sure how much just a receiver is, but let me take a quick look on Amazon and see if I can find a price.
Here's a wireless trigger, set, transmitter, and receiver for $65.
Okay. Alex says the GN22 from New Era are also really good for $70 a pair. So the receiver, so the Photix Aries receiver is 35. So basically for $100, which, is not cheap, right, relative to the cheap Chinese triggers you can get. But basically for a little over, it's about $100 exactly. You could get the transmitter and then the two receivers that would trigger your flashes. And based on David Hobby's recommendation, those are rock solid and will work. And so that's what I'd say. It's worth going with those. All right, so Roberto says the A6000 is not that bad. I would agree; it's a great camera. In terms of like image quality and stuff like that. A lot of people think it's great, and again, aside from my bias against Sony because of what I explained earlier, I recognize fully that Sony makes great cameras, and the A6000 is one of them. So.
Stupid cat's not letting me put the short links in today.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Oh, perfect. So Valkyrie says, if I can keep it under 150, I'm happy. I'd go with the Aries then, and if you get them on Amazon, especially if you have Amazon Prime, you'll come in easily under 150.
Yeah.
Bill, that's a good question. I haven't used them yet. The 35 and 50 millimeter Yongnuo lenses. From what I've read, they're pretty solid. They're not as good as the brand equivalents, Canon or Nikon, but they're quite good for especially considering the price you're paying. Yeah, considering what you are. So I considered buying and trying to review them, but I never did, just because I didn't. No particular reason, honestly. I just didn't.
That's a good reason.
I'm trying to do more reviews, but the problem is if I'm going to review something, I got to buy the gear because I don't have a gear source. So I've got to be selective when I do that. So it's a little bit after 7. I want to loop this all the way back around to what I was talking about at the beginning and share with you guys what I'm considering wanting to do with my flash setup, but probably not going to be doing it anytime soon because I don't have a bunch of extra money laying around. I've been looking at these Godox 8200s. So these are monolights, but they're not huge monolights. They're 200 watt seconds in terms of power. Now that's not like overpower the sun bright, but to give you an idea, and this is frustrating because monolights are given in watt seconds, and flat speed lights are given as a guide number to rate their power.
Yeah, they don't compare apples to apples.
Right, they don't compare apples to apples. So hold on just a moment. I'm gonna change something here. Let me go back over here. Sorry. So to give you just an idea of comparison, on average, a typical speed light, like a Canon 580 EX2 or the Yongnuo flashes, etc., they are about 60 watt seconds. Now that's not a hard fast. That's just kind of a general ballpark figure, which means that this flash is about 3 times as powerful. And it's significantly more expensive compared to like a Yongnuo at $60 or $70 versus $300. But part of me thinks like if I got a couple of these for my main lights, and then a few, like 2 or 3 of the $60 Godox speed lights that have all of these have their wireless triggers built into them, and then a Godox master trigger, I'd have a nice, even, consistent flash set. I'd have like 2 main lights that I could use, and because they'd be about 3 times as powerful as a speed light, I'd actually be able to be shooting them at half or quarter or eighth power depending, which will mean that they're going to be less likely to overheat as compared to when I'm shooting. My main lights are often at full power, which leads them to overheating. But doing that would cost me upwards of probably, just 2 of those would be $600. So we're looking at probably $700 or $800, and that's money I don't have to spend right now. So this is kind of like something I wish I could do right now, to make my setup more efficient and a little bit more reliable, but something that I'm not going to be doing anytime soon because we're spending, all of our excess, our walking around money is going into the house right now, and not into my gear bag.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I would like to do if I had the funds. Now, the other thing I've been thinking, let me switch this back over so that we can see you moving again, Mark, because your head freezes when I do that. I apologize. The thing I've been thinking is I could potentially sell all of my current lighting gear to help fund that, right? Because I've got 6 Pocket Wizard triggers and a mixed bag of flashes that I could probably get, 3.
That's what I was going to guesstimate, 3-ish.
Yeah, 3
Give or
to
take.
500. It depends, like, because I have 3 Pocket Wizard plus 3s, and I was looking on eBay, and those are selling around $80. So just with those 3, I'd get about $240. I
think it mostly depends on if you're in a hurry to get rid of them or if you're willing to wait
right
for the right person to buy them.
Yeah, and if it's if I would probably be in a hurry because I'm going to be honest, I have almost zero patience for dealing with selling crap. I would honestly try to find a way I could just trade the stuff in, which is going to reduce the amount of money that I would get for them too.
Right.
And so that's why it's like I've just been thinking about it, and it's something I'd like to do, but I would want to just be like, here, take all of this stuff off of my hands right now, please, and give me some money for it, and then I can fund this purchase. And it would essentially, it would simplify my system. It would make it consistent. It would make it more reliable because I'd be less likely to overheat my lights, and that would be really nice. Plus, they have the battery packs that go into those other those little monolights, which is is going to be nice to use versus AA's. Like, all of those things would make it a nicer, more efficient system for me to use. But until I have $700 laying around,
yeah,
I'll keep using my mixed bag of flashes and my Pocket Wizard triggers.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
They still work. They
work.
Yep.
Absolutely, they work. But they definitely work. All right. So on that note, we've got. Is the guide number same as watts on a flash? No, it is not. The guide number, Sandy, is a distance measurement, and how it works is the guide number says if you fire this flash at maximum power with your camera set to ISO 100 and you use the maximum zoom on the flash, so 105 millimeters, 200 millimeters, depending upon that, to tighten the beam as much as possible, then you can illuminate a subject that is that distance from the flash. So a guide number of 60 meters says that the maximum distance a subject can be for a quote-unquote correct exposure is 60 meters from the flash. When the flash is at full power, the zoom is set to 200 on that particular flash, and you're shooting at ISO 100, and I can't remember what the aperture setting is, but it's typically a consistent aperture setting.
Probably like f8.
Yeah, something like that. Whereas the watt seconds is literally a measure of the power of the light. And that's why it's kind of annoying trying to compare speed light to something like that 8200, because you have, the general knowledge of the internet says that an average speed light is about 60 watt seconds. I was looking that up earlier today, which is where I got that number. I didn't do any testing to try to find that number because I don't have any kind of equipment that I could use to test.
Yeah, I've even heard, like, with the watt seconds too.
Mm-hmm.
You can have 2 flashes that are rated at the same watt seconds, and they still won't have the same
That
power
have some
output
variance
because of fluctuations
Yeah.
and older technology versus newer technology and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah. So I know you guys got some other questions coming in, but it's after 7 o'clock, and we got to wrap this up because I got to go pick up my wife. So in closing, I hope you guys enjoyed this chat.
Yep.
We had a ton of fun. I always enjoy doing this with you guys. And if you ever have questions or anything that you need help with, you can find me or Mark all over the internet, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, email, blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate that you take time of your day to hang out with us and participate in the chat and be part of the show. We love you for that. Mark, anything you want to add before we wrap this baby up?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, thanks everybody. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and subscribe to Mark's channel.
That's right.
Yeah.
I need more subscribers.
Yeah. Mark needs more subscribers. And other things that I usually say, but I don't remember those things because I just derailed myself. But the most important thing you guys need to do anyway, you know what it is and you know what I'm going to say. Get out there and take some damn photos, guys. All right? We will see you next week. And newsflash, I'm actually going to live edit on Friday. So if you want to hang out with me on Twitch, I will actually, for real, be doing it, which is the first time in almost a month. So,
unless something comes up again.
Yeah. Well, it's not. We've already got it planned out. I'm going to be there.
Well, there you go.
All right. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye.
Night all.